What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall market. Please note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. So I just want to mention to everyone that as far as the market is going, there's a lot of weakness right now, especially after the data that just came out. So we had the unemployment rate at 4.1%. That was below expectations. And non-farm payrolls was at 256,000. That was above expectations. The data was quite decent. However, despite that, there's a lot of fear of inflation coming back up and the Fed having to keep rates higher for longer, as Bowman and many other Fed speakers were saying. So these unemployment numbers didn't really help us. In fact, it led to even more fear of the Fed being incentivized to keep rates for higher for longer. Then on top of that, we had some data from Michigan. So the 5-year and monthly expectations were at 3.3%. This is above expectations as well. And this is once again causing the market to dip because we are expecting another surge in inflation. At least that's what the data suggests. So that is why the market's selling off a bit, despite the fact that we had a 1.2 puts to call ratio. But I just want to say that as far as the way the market's going to move, we have this head and shoulders on SPY that's very evident, but we haven't lost critical support yet for this to really play out. So we're looking at this support right here at the very bottom. So yes, we lost this little pennant right over here. We did lose that support, but we're barely holding the support between 577.5 and 580. So there are buyers who are trying to hold us at 580. They're trying, but just know there's a lot of weakness on SPY, and they're not doing the best of jobs so far. If SPY loses 577, we're looking for 574, then 570 as our targets for a big dump. If we could hold 580, there may be an attempt to rebound for 582, then 585. As of right now, we're favoring that we're going to be losing 580, but we have to see if we lose 577. That's a strong support, but so far SPY is favoring it might end up losing that. On ES, we're on a downtrend. We're making lower highs right here. We're continuing to fall as we have this left shoulder ahead and then the right shoulder. So if you zoom out, you guys can see this quite clearly. So we're looking at 58.50 is our support, then 58.25, and 58.80 is going to be our resistance. So far, we're favoring that we're barely holding 58.50. We might be continuing to dump back down. When you zoom out like this, you guys can see that off this head and shoulders, we have this support to watch for at the very low 5800s. That's going to favor the direction we're in if this ends up panning out. And so far, we're losing structure on ES, thus favoring the downside for 58.25 or below. So it is looking weaker. I know buyers are trying to defend at 58.50, but it's still showing some weakness. On Nvidia, we have the same thing going on. There's weakness on this chart. We're seeing buyers who are trying to hold it at 135 around that area. So watch 135 as a very key level to see if it could hold that. Then we have 137.67 above that, and 140 is our resistances. If we end up losing 133, however, we could be dumping all the way down to about 130. For now, we do look a bit more bearish, and we'll have to see if it can hold support or not. So just give this some time to develop. For Bitcoin, we're on a bit of a down. Excuse me. There's a downtrend on Bitcoin because we are making lower highs. However, I do want to mention that for the very short term, this is holding support quite well. So it is looking like it's trying to base here. If we could try to get back up of 94,000, we're looking for 94,900 as our target at the 20 EMA. If we end up losing 92,000, though, we're going to dump back down. For now, it is looking like we have an inverse head and shoulder setup. This might try to bounce a bit, but like I said before, it's not that strong. It's technically on a much larger downtrend. So even if we do get a temporary bounce, I wouldn't be way too bullish. I would just be very careful. So there is a small accumulation here. It might get a short-term bounce, but then the medium term is still bearish in terms of its trend. So just keep that in mind. For others out there, we have Tesla. Tesla's technically on a downtrend, making lower highs. Excuse me, guys, lower highs and lower lows. But the problem with Tesla is that we have this support. We're barely holding this. So we got to see if the support holds where this trend line is. If we can't hold 390, we're at risk of retesting 388 then 385. If that breaks, we turn a lot more bearish for the low 380s. If we hold support, we're going to try to hold the 391 area to try to bounce back up towards 395, then eventually the 400s. We'll see if support holds or not. Otherwise, we could continue this downtrend. So give this the time it needs. But just know there's a little bit of weakness on Tesla, in my opinion. So I would just warn you to be careful with it. We'll see if this support holds. For now, despite Tesla dipping, there are buyers who are trying to hold it at support. If it can hold this, there could be a bounce next week. If not, it's going to be weaker. So we just have to wait and see how it closes just to be safe. On NQ, we're on a downtrend, but we have to see if we can get back above 21,000. If not, we're looking for 20,800 and eventually 20,500. So watch those supports. On the QQQ, we're on a downtrend as well. We're making lower highs and lower lows. However, we're going to be watching to see if we can try to hold this support right here. We have 507 as our main resistance. If we can't get back above that, we're at risk of dipping to 502 and eventually 500. So watch those levels very closely. Uh, I still think there's a risk of, by the way, about the QQQ, I still see a risk of some more downside if we can't reclaim 507. So just keep that in mind. There's weakness on this. It's looking weaker than SPY so far. When you look at the daily on the QQQ, one more thing worth mentioning is that this is still looking weak. So the triple Q has some weakness here, especially as we have some gaps to fill below. So if we can't reclaim 507, it's still favoring downside. We'll see how that goes for it. But like I said before, the downside risk is still there, especially because of Aapl and Nvidia. Aapl is showing weakness. We were supposed to hold at 238. We actually lost my support. I was calling out 235. That failed. We're below that as well. So we're losing all my supports. So we're looking for 133.5. That's previous resistance becoming supports. If we can't hold that, I think we could be dumping to about 230. And then to get back up, you want to get back above at least 238. Otherwise, we just favor more downside. For the IWM Russell 2000, we also favor the downside moves. We're making lower highs and lower lows, and we're going to be watching to see what happens right here. We're looking for essentially this 215 area as our main support, and eventually, lower levels below that if that fails us. So I'm seeing weakness on the IWM Russell 2000. If we could try to reclaim 218, we'll see if we get some kind of bounce. Otherwise, we just favor the downside. So keep that in mind. For Coinbase, we're on a downtrend, so just know that we're continuing to make lower highs as well. There is one good thing. That's the fact that as we came down to fill this gap at 247, there are buyers who are trying to hold it. However, we need to get back above 265 to really turn bullish. And if we can't do that, we're just range bound now in the 250 to 257 area. So that's going to be our range. So I think we just continue to shuffle around this range right now in the 250s. We haven't broken resistance or lost critical support, so we're stuck in the middle. But just know that there will be a risk of more downside if we lose that support around the 247 area. For Amazon, we're on a bit of a downtrend. We have to see if we can try to reclaim 218 or not. Otherwise, we could continue to fall back down towards 215. So watch 218 as resistance and then 220. And if we can't hold above those, we may continue this downtrend. For Meta, we're stuck in the middle where we have this 620 area as our resistance, not to mention 625. And if we lose support at 611, we're looking for a dump to 607. I think Meta is showing strength compared to Amazon and the others because we have an accumulation that formed right here, right? There's like a double bottom. But here's the thing: we haven't lost critical support at 607. We also have not broken resistance around the 620 area. So we're stuck in the middle, going back and forth. We may continue to shuffle for a bit. I want to see if we can close above at least 620 to turn back up. Otherwise, I do see a lot of shuffling continuing. The main level would be a break past this high of the day as well. So I would like to see that. I think there's potential for it to do that, but for now we're just range bound. For Microsoft, we're showing some weakness. We have to try to get back above 420. Otherwise, we favor 415 again. We're in that range, but there is weakness in the share price. And Google is barely holding 193.8. If that fails us, we're looking for a move back down towards 190. Excuse me. We're trying to hold our 50 EMA as support at 193.69. So we'll see if that holds or not. But for now, whoops, guys, sorry about that. For now, we're just trying to hold some key levels. So watch 193.62 is our main support. We may shuffle for a bit, but I do see risk of downside if that doesn't hold. Just keep those levels in mind. Anyways, that's it for my video, guys. I thank you all so much for listening. There's most definitely some weakness developing on SPY and the others, but we're going to be watching these levels just to see how we close and just know that it's important to watch them on a levels basis. Don't just solely depend on patterns. And there is weakness developing on SPY as we're below 580. So we'll see if we lose 577 on SPY to turn even more bearish. Otherwise, the bears still have a bit of an edge. They'll have an even bigger edge if we lose 577. So just keep that level in mind. All right. So have a good day, guys. I'll see you guys in a couple of hours with another update. Until then, take care and peace out.